Hello, and welcome to Working Lunch, the Slow Chambers weekly series where we have the chance to sit down with leaders in our community and bring back some of that personal connection that we've been missing during these turbulent times and maybe get to learn some new things about people we interact with or have never met before. I'm Jim D'Antona, President and CEO of the Slow Chamber, and today you'll get to be a part of my conversation with Josh Christensen, owner of Sidecar Cocktail Co and The Penny in downtown Slow. San Diego native and Cal Poly graduate Josh has more than 25 years of restaurant and bar management experience. Sidecar has been lauded locally and in publications like the New York Times, which lauded its bohemian flair, well suited to long, boozy brunches. I'm so looking forward to our conversation and digging into what it's been like to move to a new location right before the COVID shutdown, how their offerings have evolved, and what he has learned in these past few months. Adaptation, change, and disrupting for good. Josh, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Jim. It's great to join you.
Well, as we kind of sit down to lunch, first and foremost, where are you zooming in from today?
I'm downstairs in the den, kind of at the new Sidecar location, right across from the creek at 1040 Broad Street. Sadly, I'm not eating anything though.
Well, you do have a whole gamut right there. I'm sure you'll be able to pick up something. So you're serving great food over there, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's kind of what I do all day. Rather than sit down to proper meals, I just kind of jump back into the kitchen and they throw something at me. And that's kind of like an hourly occurrence.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't know how that would do for my diet, but that sounds like it would work out pretty nicely.
It's pretty rough.
Well, I've been over there and it's a really beautiful space. What initially inspired, the move from your kind of original location?
Well, there were several things that went into the decision-making process to move over, but I'd say the primary thing was, we became aware of a newer style liquor license that would actually allow for a distillation operation. They call it a micro distillery, to operate distill spirits and then still serve as a tasting room, restaurant, and bar. Obviously, when we were at the old location at Sidecar, we had the restaurant bar thing, and for years and years, I always had this little pipe dream of distilling eventually, and I kind of just always assumed that it would be something that I would do in retirement if I ever made it that far. I'd move to a ranch somewhere and set up a little still in a garage or a barn or something, and just kind of make some moonshine. But when the ABC in the state of California created this new license in 2016, we started looking into the possibility of how we could maybe transition our business to incorporate that. We came up towards the end of our original lease term at the old location, and I started looking around town. And this location, I had fond memories of this location growing up. When I was in college, I used to come to $5 Chipino night when it was, oh man, I'm forgetting the name. Some of you out there will remember this, but it wasn't Fish Shack, Garoppolo's, when it was Garoppolo's. We used to come and on $5 night, I'd get like the cheapest glass of wine, and I'd bring like a date while I was in college, pretending like I was kind of adult-like. Sometimes we would come downstairs and they'd have a little jazz band playing in the bar. And it just felt like this really cool, cozy place. And so I had fond memories of it. Of course, over the past decade or decade and a half, I hadn't really come here much. It wasn't something that terribly appealed to me, but when it became vacant and sat on the market for a little while for lease, I eventually reached out to the landlord, the property owner, and had a really, really productive, strong conversation with him. And I came in to see the space. It wasn't in great shape. In fact, the first time I walked my family through it, my kids were pretty anti the idea of it, to say the least. I walked my staff through it before we signed the lease, and they were like, I think they were all looking at me like I was crazy. And they said, okay, guy, if you say, I'm pretty sure Danielle, my bar manager, she was kind of like, if you say so, Josh, like, okay, I don't really see it, but I felt like, that I saw something here and I had fond memories from it in the past. And I really felt like it was something that we could do. And the icing on the top was, as I was talking about that micro distillery license, the use permit for this property already allowed for production because it had been a brewery for the last, probably decade or a little bit more. And so it wouldn't require a brand new conditional use permit. It would really just require an amendment to what was being produced on site here. Instead of it being beer that was produced, we'd be producing distilled spirits. And, there's certainly things along, with that license. Our relationship with the federal government has become a little bit more intimate as they regulate these things very tightly. And so things that we've had to learn and adapt to. But as far as our process with the city, it was actually very easy. And when I spoke with some of the folks over at Community Services Department, they assured me that this was the kind of thing that they were trying to promote in our downtown, more production, more craft, makers occupying space downtown. And so they said that this idea was very much in line with their mandate. And at that point, I felt like, man, I'm not going to have to fight the city on this. The landlord seems like a very good, supportive property owner. I get to exercise a little bit of what I thought was a pipe dream, and I can do it before I retire and maybe even, hope to expand our brand, beyond what we just do in our four walls, a little bit more outward. So when all those things kind of lined up, we just felt like it was kind of like the world giving us a little smack, a little pat on the back saying, go. So we did.
Well, it's truly incredible. And there's a couple of things in there that I really wanted to kind of connect on. Well, I mean, first, I love this new idea of distilleries and people building kind of craft, as you just talked about. Is there something specific you think you'll be distilling, or are you kind of going to do everything? And then obviously your business kind of opened right before March 17th with the close down date. So has COVID really kind of, made it impossible for you to do your work, or totally, made it really difficult to manage through?
Let me answer the first question first. That's what we're going to be focusing on production wise. My first love is my wife and children. My next love is gin. And sometimes my wife punches me and says, you love that more than me, but no, it's not true. But we do love gin. I think our staff loves gin. It's a really dynamic spirit in cocktails, which is kind of the thing that drives our passion here. The way that gin is able to play with various flavors and ingredients, we just never get bored of using it. And so we felt like at the heart of the ethos of what we want to do with the distillery is we want to fuel what we're already, what we try to do already. And that is be, the best cocktail bar we can be. And so we want to be able to produce what we put into our cocktails. We already make in-house so many syrups and tinctures and bitters and shrubs and you name it, to be able to create a base spirit that we're going to be able to use as the primary ingredient in a large part of our cocktail program really does motivate us and excite us. So gin is going to be kind of our primary focus, but we're also going to be doing a few different bitters. Not a huge line, but 2 to 3. And then another thing that we're really passionate about is I really like essential oils and the ability to use essential oils in various modalities. One of the huge challenges that I've encountered is finding essential oils that are actually graded for food use. You can go to Whole Foods or shop online or go to the co-op and get essential oils that are graded for therapeutic use. So you can use them in diffusers or in incense or topicals like creams and lotions. But it's not common that you're able to find a wide array of food grade essential oils. So we are going to actually produce a little line of essential oils that we intend to use both in our kitchen and in our bar programs. And we'll make those available for purchase for the community as well. So those are going to be the primary focuses. But as a lot of people know, gin is basically kind of like vodka that's been souped up with a bunch of botanicals. And since we're going to have it anyway, I think we're going to end up probably bottling a line of vodka in conjunction with the gin. But the gin is certainly going to be our flagship. As far as moving over, man, we've received a lot of sentiment that's just like, oh man, it's tragic. you moved over and you only had 11 days to operate or 12 days to operate before you were shut down. And, oh, the timing couldn't have been worse. And, to be honest, we feel like the timing couldn't have been better. At the old Sidecar location, we just wouldn't have had anywhere to move outside. We wouldn't have had the ability to serve, in this really cool open air environment like we do at this location, being that we're right there on the creek and there's the bridge. Broad Street runs as a bridge going over the creek. There's really no businesses on one side of us, and all the way up to the museum. And because of our location here, we've actually been, really fortunate to be able to have a good, substantial outdoor area where we've been able to put lounges out every day and dining tables. And, we've got the umbrellas when it's sunny, and we've got space heaters when it's cold, which we're going to have to get more of here pretty quick. We've got little Mexican kind of blankets that we're able, and I don't want to charge people for those because I'm not trying to make money off of keeping people cozy. But obviously we can't take them and give them back, and everything with the pandemic. So we're basically just selling those at our cost. We're able to get a pretty good deal on them. So we've got blankets and heaters. We've got umbrellas for when it's warm and sunny, and we're right there on the creek. So I feel very fortunate that we actually made the move when we did, that we were able to get the doors open. Even at the beginning when it was shelter in place and we were just doing to-go items, it did give us an opportunity to expose at least a portion of the space to the community. They would come in and they'd pick up their to-go food and they'd look around. They'd be like, "Oh, this is so beautiful." And we're like, "Oh, this isn't really how it's going to be." But they'd be able to get the idea of what was happening. And as we've continued to evolve and have the outdoor dining and the ability to see people on our patio, we're able to use the space a little bit more. Of course, we're probably going to be moving backwards a little bit here in terms of our tier as the numbers are spiking right now. We were getting excited about the possibility of being able to bring people downstairs where I am and kind of opening this area back up again. Obviously, it looks like that's going to take a little bit longer to get there, but it's just given us more to look forward to as we move more and more towards some form of normalcy, and hopefully we get a little bit of a grasp on this thing. We're not only going to be excited about that, but we're going to be excited to reopen a whole new area to the public and be able to welcome people back in.
It's incredible, and it seems like obviously, most people would have, as people were asking you, panicked over, oh my gosh, you just opened and did it. But it seems like you guys really embrace the idea of adjusting and figuring out how to work within the system. Is that you, or is that your team, or is it both? How did that come to be?
I think it's all of the above. I certainly can't take credit for all that. But I will say that, sometimes it's worked to my detriment at times, but I have a hard time standing still. I'm intrigued by new ideas. I like new things. That's why we switch our cocktail program up as frequently as we do. By the time we publish a cocktail menu, I'm already tired of them. We've been working on them for a few months, and now I'm like, all right, let's go. I want to start working on a new thing. I treat a lot of the aspects of my business that way, which, like I said, is in some aspects is a real challenge, and at times has been a detriment. I need to be able to, it's good for me to have my wife and my brother there to kind of anchor me sometimes, and to be able to be a more calming, steady presence. But when the pandemic hit, I think that nature of mine did lend itself well to being able to adapt. I get energized by the idea of adapting, and like anyone else, at times I can get stuck in a rut, or I can, kind of get dragged down by the monotony of the day to day. And, when the pandemic struck and we were shut down, we just didn't have a choice. I didn't really think about it as being something that was a negative in that sense. My natural reaction was to think, well, okay, so what do we do? Not, oh no, what do we do? It's like, cool, okay, let's go. I woke up one day and my brother and I had a conversation. I was like, it's like, we're in battle now. Like, let's go. Like this is exciting and it's fun. And over the course of my life, as I look back and I look at my parents' example, I know that for me, I grow the most in times of challenge. And, so I kind of relish those times. I look forward to those times. At times, I think my wife says, look, we don't need to make those times for ourselves, like kind of enjoy the peaceful times when they're here. But given that, that was our nature. I think that it was kind of a time that we used to get excited, to reinvigorate, and to kind of reimagine some things. And that process is ongoing. We're still very much in a mindset of continuing to adapt, not just to the current circumstances, but we want to adapt to a world that doesn't exist yet. We want to create something that not a bar or restaurant, but we want to create a philosophy, a modality of doing our work that isn't that we don't know yet. We want to evolve and create something new. We want to treat our people differently. We want to bring our people in differently. And that's, our people on staff. And that's also our people that come in and support us and the community on the whole. So for us, it's been a really exciting time. It's certainly been a little tiring, but very, very exciting more than anything.
Well, and you talked a little bit about it before when you were talking about the challenges of COVID, and hearing from you there about kind of looking to how do you adapt, with the recent legislative change that have allowed for kind of takeout cocktails and potential to-go boxes, if you will, on building some of these things. Have you been able to take advantage of those opportunities and connect with customers in a new way?
Absolutely. And this is something, my hope is that we'll be able to maintain the current allowances for even longer than when we officially end the pandemic or whatever that means, because the reality is, in my opinion, that there is still going to be a lot of people, a high number or a high percentage of the population that's not going to feel comfortable going back to the old way of connecting with people, at least not right away. I envision that, or I imagine that a lot of people are going to be a lot more comfortable staying in smaller groups and staying in their own homes or their own backyards or open air spaces. And so I think that the demand for the to-go items, be it food or drink, is going to stay high. And so I hope that that's going to stay. And I'll be a part of the group that's fighting to, make that legislation a little bit more permanent, or at least advocating for it. But we have seen a huge response in our to-go program. And we're now in the process of kind of adapting that to do gift boxes. It's not just like hey, it's a Friday night, I want to do a happy hour at home. Here's my bottle of cocktail, and my burger. We're trying to create opportunities for people to give, home bartender kits with tools and cocktails and books. We're doing tiki themed kits. We're doing agave based spirit, gift boxes. And as we're continuing to kind of fine tune the logistical side of building that program, we're going to launch that in a really big way on the internet with virtual store and whatnot. Alongside that, we've been able to coordinate with a few different corporations to kind of spice up their Zoom happy hours, as it were. And they've several of those companies have asked us, will you jump on to our Zoom and kind of geek out on cocktails and be there for your Q&A? And so I've had members of my staff join me for these various calls, and we end up just having a good time. We sit down with a drink, and everyone else has the drinks that we've sent them out. And we're able to kind of have this virtual connection, even though it's not in person. We're able to kind of have this experiential driven, virtual call, instead of it just being a monotonous or kind of rote, we're all here, cheers, like this is getting old. And then people get to ask us questions, so what's the difference between bourbon and whiskey? And, what is mezcal? What is an Amaro? We don't know what the heck. Why do I like Campari? I don't usually like bitter things, all the stuff. And what is a shrub? All the fun things. So it's created an environment where we can actually not just sell a product, and it's not just transactional, but it's actually somewhat experiential and connective in its nature, which we thrive on. I think most people thrive on, and certainly something that has been missed over the past since March, I guess. So that's been a fun little nuanced way of reconnecting to the community.
Well, it's amazing to hear your thought process of going in again, being able to flip the script pretty quick. Did you drive that kind of inspiration, or was there someone who's kind of given you some inspiration to, on how you run your business like that?
My parents are huge examples for me. I think my dad is someone who just doesn't sit still either. He likes to innovate. He's always thinking, and he's creative in that way. He wouldn't call himself a creative, and I don't really think I would call myself a creative. But I like being creative in forming new visions. I don't work, I can't build things with my hands, and I certainly can't paint or make music. But I like envisioning new things, and probably because some of that nature and the example that I've had in my life, I seek out strong voices and authors and experts on leadership, on business. Simon Sinek is one person that I have really gravitated towards, and his latest publication is called The Infinite Game, talking about how to create, a new world, how to work towards a just cause, not just a transactional, here's your cocktail, I'll take your money. It's about reimagining how it is we're creating business for the very long run, not just, am I going to survive the year or just survive the pandemic, or, what are my fiscal numbers? It's about creating a holistic approach to how we build new things. And those things they speak to me. They inspire me. And I think, what we've observed is that our people are motivated by that as well. Our staff members, our guests, you can go have a transaction just about anywhere these days. And certainly you don't have to leave your house to have a transaction. You click a button on your computer and it's done. And, maybe a day later or an hour later, depending on what it is you're ordering or purchasing, it's going to show up. But I think that as humans, we're social creatures, and we crave more than a transaction. And with that mindset, we want to build something that isn't just about what happens in our four walls. We're building a relationship with the community, and impacting it in ways other than just getting them a little tipsy or putting some good food in their belly.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. You talked right there about kind of the inspiration of the family, inspiring you on that. So obviously you talked a little bit before. You work closely with your wife Lauren as well as your brother Jeremy. Did you always want to have a family business, or was that just a happy coincidence?
No, yeah, I don't think growing up that was ever even a thought. Honestly, I all of the members of my family tend to be pretty independent. Again, as a kind of reaction to what we were exposed to as children. My dad and my mom have been very independent their whole lives and entrepreneurs, and I think we all kind of have that little wild hair. And it just happened to be that it worked out when the original owners of Sidecar were entertaining selling the business to me, and I called my brother Jeremy, who was down in San Diego running some really well-established restaurants down there, and I just said, "Hey, bud, if I'm able to pull this off, I'm going to need your help." And the months went by, and finally a deal was brokered, and I called him up and I said, "Look, I got it. Let's go. You got to get up here." So within 2 months, he'd found a place and packed up a truck, and he'd gotten up here. And since then, he and I have been working together. We had another partner at the beginning who's since passed away, but as the business has continued to grow and evolve and shift, and certainly after I had a pretty serious automobile accident a couple years ago, which forced some changes to our structure as well. Lauren has come in and become a humongous part of what we do, not only here at Sidecar, but she really does run the ship at the Penny as well, which you mentioned. And certainly these times are very challenging for the Penny, being an event venue space and not really being able to have gatherings is a little rough, because that whole business is based on people coming together. But she's been able to do a phenomenal job keeping that place floating, being creative and finding solutions. And she brings that same kind of grind, work ethic, anchor kind of presence to Sidecar as well. which I know, the staff loves us, and we have great relationships with the family here. I think more often than not, the staff's like, thank God for Lauren, because Josh is floating off somewhere with some crazy ideas, and Lauren's here to hold it down. So, while it was never necessarily an intention, and it certainly comes with challenges, the fact that we're able to work together as a family has actually been really, really cool.
Well, yeah, congratulations on that. That is a tough needle to thread, especially with your spouse. It could be incredibly difficult.
We struggle with that sometimes. There's a balance that we have yet to find with regards to life and work. We'll be laying in bed about to go to sleep, and then she'll bring something up, and then it'll start in my mind, and I bring something. I'm like, I need to not have this in my bedroom. We're getting ready and we're making lunches for the kids for school that day, and it's like you jump right into it. And I think if my work was separate and Lauren's work was separate, and that might not be as prevalent in our home, but because we are immersed in the very same thing, and because things are changing so rapidly and we're having to adapt as much as we are, it can be a bit consuming. And there have been times where at the dinner table the kids are like, can we just not talk about work? And it's a very fair point, and it's something that Lauren and I realize we struggle with, and we need to be very conscious of paying attention to, because otherwise it'll just consume everything. And we know that in order to be healthy and sustainable, and to raise our kids in the best environment we can provide, we need to be able to kind of draw lines and compartmentalize a little bit from time to time, better than we do. So there are challenges, but again, we also have that inherent support system for each other. Between Jeremy and Lauren and the rest of our team, we've got this really cool, family, like we got each other's back dynamic, and more often than not, that's a saving grace. The challenges we'll deal with and we'll continue to grow through, but it's nice to know that there's a trust and a faith in each other that is pretty unmovable at this point.
Yeah, and it's so great to see. And you talked about there, in this community, there's a lot of that kind of family interaction and I've seen it. It's been really amazing to see how people can do that successfully. And obviously, it's tough to find a balance, but it sounds like you're trying to find that. And I love that the kids were like, can we just not talk about it? That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're already at a half hour. And want to get in a couple final things here. If people want to interact with the Sidecar, want to find out more about what they can order and get, what's the best way to find Sidecar?
The website is sidecarslow.com. Instagram at sidecarslow. Those are the two probably most efficient ways to connect with us from home. Certainly we're open, Wednesday through Sunday, in person for outdoor dining. We are still doing 25% occupancy inside for another few days, assuming that's going to go away pretty quick. But we'll still be doing our outdoor situation. Like I said, I know it's getting a little bit cold, but we're going to have heaters and blankets, and we're gonna try to put together some interesting events where we're encouraging people to come and like wrap their arms around the cold. I don't know if it'll be possible, but I kind of want to get a snow machine out and like have a snowball fight. Like really, we'll have some hot cocoa, spike it with a little bit of brandy, and throw some snowballs at each other on the parklet or something. We're gonna play, but we're fortunate here that our winters are not that harsh. I know that we get pretty soft and pretty spoiled with this weather, but people, it's not that cold. We got heaters, we got blankets. We'll take care of you.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so true, right? It's that it's mostly a California feel, like, oh, it's cold. Nope, no, it's not.
Yeah. And I get it. We've got perfect weather like 98% of the time, but that very small percentage of time where we've got to kind of toughen up a little bit, we can do it.
Absolutely. How about if folks want to interact or have things they want to do with the Penny? What's the best way to find them?
thepennyslow.com is the website. info@thepennyslow.com would be a great email address if there are specific questions that aren't addressed on the website. There's also a form on the website that you can fill out if you're curious about anything that we're doing. And if you have an idea, what Lauren's really working on a lot right now is booking future parties and events, be it weddings or anniversary parties or corporate gigs or what have you. With the expectation that we'll wrap our arms around this pandemic, sometime in the next year. So if there are ever any inquiries or questions about what we're able to do, what you're able to do in the space, the website is a great place to start. And then Lauren is Johnny on the spot. She's there with the info. And if there isn't something covered on the website, she'll get back to you real quick.
Yeah, it's awesome. I remember there when we did the opening, but again, glad to see you guys are innovating. So we always end on one question. What are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm not a big birthday guy, but I turned 40 a few days ago. And so my wife arranged a night where we've got a babysitter, and her folks are going to take me out to dinner. I think we're looking at going to the range in Santa Margarita. I'm going to get a steak and some dragon's breath and stink like garlic for 3 days, and it's going to be awesome. And Sunday morning, we're going to come back home and make sure that we get a nice, strong family day, maybe build a fort and have a movie night before the kids start school again next week.
That's awesome. Well, welcome to the 40s. I think the day you roll out of bed, you'll pull something, but don't. It's just part of the growing. So, Josh, thanks so much for being here, talking with us, giving us some of your thoughts. I know there are a lot of business folks out there, and getting inspiration from us, from each other in the community is really great. And you had some great words today. So thank you so much.
Jim, I really appreciate all y'all's work at the chamber, and the amount of effort that y'all are putting in to advocate for the small businesses in this town, and just the general community. It's been impactful. You guys continue to hustle. So I really, really want to express a lot of appreciation and gratitude for y'all's work. We wouldn't be the special town we are without people like y'all.
I really appreciate it. And again, thank you for everything you're doing. So for all the rest of you who joined us, thank you so much for eating lunch with us. We hope to see you next week when we're joined by Food Bank CEO Garrett Olson, talk a little bit about what's going on there. And then have an idea for a future working lunch guest or someone you want to learn more about, send us an email at slowchamber@slowchamber.org. We appreciate you all tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe and healthy out there.